Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the CFL DFS video for week number 17. So in this video, I'll be going over my sheet, kind of talking through each team, each player, whether or not I would play them in GPP, cash format, kind of a pay down option, dart throw type of option. And then kind of going from there, like guys I'd stack together, whether or not I'd probably be overweight or underweight to the field, which keep in mind, CFL ownership is very difficult to project because there ain't many sites out there doing it, if at all any. So without further ado, we'll just get into the sheet, kind of break it down real quick and easy. But we're going to start off with the Toronto Argonauts. This is one of the Friday games. So Chad Kelly's $11,800. Think he's a viable GPP play once again. You know, keep in mind Toronto did end up resting AJ Alouette last week. There is a chance that Chad Kelly could rest one of these weeks too as well, or, you know, get pulled halfway through the game, especially if they're winning. You know, going against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, it should be a pretty competitive game. So if he plays, he's probably going to stay in the game, but we'll just see how that all looks. At running back, you know, AJ Alouette likely back this week. They did have him marked with a foot injury, but it sounds like they were just resting him last week. It's still a very viable GPP option if he ultimately ends up playing. You know, probably be even with the field on him this week. Maybe a little bit overweight to the field on Chad Kelly overall, just because it should be a pretty back and forth game. Should be able to put up some pretty big fantasy scores. And then, like, at the same time, if we get news that, like, AJ Alouette's not playing, then we could look at McMahon, who kind of took over his place last week, but he's up to $5,200 now at this place, or at this point in time. Sounds like Andrew Harris probably going to be out again this week. We'll just have to see what that all looks like. And then for the wide receivers, Demonte Cooksey is still a very viable GPP option. $7,400. Not the greatest week last week, though, so maybe a little bit less ownership on him this week, but, you know, probably even with the field for him myself. And then I kind of like the two cheaper options in Tommy Neal and Dewan Brissett, who both have kind of been decent paydown options over the last couple of weeks at $3,700 and $3,900 respectively. Probably getting a decent amount of ownership to both if I'm playing Chad Kelly. And then we did get news that Cam Phillips is going to be out once again due to a groin injury. You know, we got the Argonauts defense been pretty good this year. They're $4,200, but against the Blue Bombers, not really trying to get there too much this week. You know, if you want to do this kind of a contrarian play, you could definitely do that though. And not a bad price tag at $4,200. And then on the Winnipeg side, we have Zach Collaros at $11,100. Not a bad price tag there either. So a solid GPP option. Like I said, this game probably going to be pretty back and forth in terms of point scoring. And then at running back, Brady Oliveira is actually $100 more than Zach Collaros himself. So $11,200. He's played really well so far this year. Kind of a GPP option. Probably somebody will be a little bit underweight to the field on, though. And then at wide receivers, so we have Dalton Shane, who is questionable due to a hip injury. So, you know, Nick Naminsky, Kenny Lawler, both very viable GPP options. Look pretty good. If, you know, we get Dalton Shane out, then, you know, maybe Rashid Bailey or Drew Walter-Ziski could get some extra runs. So if you want to take a shot on them, you could definitely do that. But, you know, for the most part, I'm probably going to be most interested in Naminsky and Kenny Lawler once again. You know, maybe you want to mix in just one of those cheaper options. We'll just kind of see what that ultimately looks like. We should get a little bit more news on that later today. And then we move down to the Rough Riders. I think Jake Dalagala at $8,600. Still a very viable GPP option. Last 2 weeks haven't been the greatest for him, though. So, you know, just keep that in mind. Probably a little bit underweight to the field or in line with the field this week than I have been in other weeks. We did get news once again that Jamal Morrow will miss with a knee injury. So Frankie Hickson looks like a very solid GPP option. Probably even a cash game option at $5,000. You're just not going to get too many running backs that are going to get that amount of workload at that price tag, especially if you're CFL DFS. Not really interested in the other running back or fullback options. You know, from the wide receiver perspective, Tevin Jones really bounced back to life as of late, so he looks like a solid GPP option at $8,500. Probably not a guy that's getting too much ownership, though. I still like him, and I like Schaefer Baker at $6,600 and Samuel Emilus at $7,000. All are pretty viable GPP options this week. Kind of notable, Jake Wieneke didn't have an injury designation this week, so we'll ultimately have to see if he's a healthy scratch this week or not. So nothing too crazy here. You know, if you wanted a kick return from Mario Alford at $3,200, kind of a pay down contrarian option if you want to go that direction. And then for the Rough Riders defense going against the BC Lions, really not trying to get there too much this week. From BC's side of the ball, I think that, you know, Vernon Adams, $12,700, pretty expensive at this point in time. Viable GPP option, still has that high upside. Should be a pretty good matchup for him, but like at the same time, it's a lot to pay up, and it's hard to stack in with some of these wide receivers as their price tags increase as well. Dean Evans with the backup quarterbacks out this week due to back injuries, so we'll have Dominic Davis as the backup, and then I believe it's Chase Bryce, who is kind of their practice squad quarterback. He'll probably get elevated for this game. And then we have Taekwon Mazzell at $9,200. Did not write it down. I still think he's a viable GPP option this week. He had a pretty good week last week. David Mackey, the fullback's out. I believe LaFrance is still on IR. There was no practice update for him. I'll have to check into that and leave a comment down in the comments below as well. For the wide receivers, you got a lot of different guys that you could play here. All of them, their price tags have kind of gone up. Keon Hatcher's up to $12,200. He's been arguably their best wide receiver this year. Hollins has been really good in the absence of Dominic Grimes, but he's up to $9,600. Looks like Dominic Grimes could be back this week. He practiced in full, so we'll keep an eye on that situation, but he's $10,800, probably more than you like to pay in his first week back. And then we got Javon Cottoy and Justin McGinnis, both been really solid as of late, so they could be viable as well. Lucky Whitehead's kind of been the guy that's fallen out of favor as of late, so a lot of different options that we could go there. If you're looking to stack with Vernon Adams, probably going to stack one of the cheaper guys, maybe one of the more expensive guys together, but no major leans this week overall. And then for that BC Lions defense, very interested in them against the Rough Riders. There is a lot of opportunities to be had there. Pretty decent defense at $4,500, maybe even a cash game option if you really wanted to go that direction. And then we go move down to the Montreal Alouettes. So this is one of the Saturday games. They have only had one practice this week, so just take everything injury-wise with a grain of salt. Not really interested in Cody Fajardo this week. Just the upside's not really there, even at $8,500. William Stanback at $7,400. Does have some decent upside. GPP, maybe a little bit overweight to him than the field this week. Just kind of depends on the other running back news that we get throughout the week. Fullback James Mack was limited on Wednesday due to an ankle injury. Doesn't affect too much for DFS purposes. And then we have Austin Mack. Did not practice Wednesday due to a thigh injury. He's kind of done that at times this season. If he ultimately ends up playing GPP option there, if he doesn't, Tyler Snead's going to look pretty good as a GPP option at $7,900. Tyson Philpott's been pretty good as of late as a paydown option at $4,000. And then their kick returner, Chandler Worthy, $3,400. Didn't practice Wednesday due to an ankle injury. If he's unable to go, somebody else is going to obviously do kick return duties. We'll see who that ultimately ends up being. Philpott could get a couple extra points there too, so he's definitely somebody to monitor. And then for their defense, I think they're a GPP option against the Ottawa Redblacks this week, even though Dustin Crump's played pretty well the last couple of weeks. But that Alouettes defense is pretty good overall, $4,300. Looks like a pretty solid option. Then moving down to the Redblacks, we got Dustin Crum. He's $10,200. If you really wanted to roll him out there as kind of a GPP option, you could probably do it with some of that rushing upside. So I'm just going to put GPP down for him. We have 2 days worth of practice notes for the Ottawa Redblacks, and they are very much dealing with a illness bug right now. So we saw a lot of the wide receivers not practice on Tuesday due to illness. Now, yesterday, Devonta Williams, the running back, didn't practice on Wednesday due to an illness. We'll see his status today. If he's unable to go, Jackson Bennett hasn't practiced all week once again with that back injury, so we might be down to Ante Maliva Leiter, probably mispronouncing his name, at $2,500, but if he's kind of the only guy in town, he's a decent paydown option. He scored 2 touchdowns in one of the games earlier this year as well. I think they still have Tuggle on the practice squad. I have to double check that, but he could come up at that point in time, or whoever the practice squad running back is right now. In terms of the wide receivers, not really too interested in here. You got Hardy and Ackland. They do have a little bit of upside at times during the year, but nothing too crazy there. I think I like Berlin Addison the most as kind of a paydown option at $3,000. So we got Nate Behar not practicing Tuesday and Wednesday due to his ankle injury. And then Shaq Evans didn't practice Tuesday due to illness and a hamstring injury that he's dealing with. So those both probably going to be out once again this week. They did re-sign Keontae Brugling to the active roster. We'll see what type of role he plays. Probably not much at all, but Mariner did have a decent week last week, so if you want to roll him out as a paydown option, you could probably do that as well. Probably be a little bit overweight to the field on Braylon Addison myself. And then for their Redblacks defense, they are going against the Alouettes. There is opportunities to be had there, kind of a paydown defense if you want to go there at $3,600. And then we'll move down to the Calgary Stampeders. Not interested in Jake Mayer once again. He'll have those good games every once in a while, but it's been so rare this year that I don't even risk it at this point in time. Not really interested in the running backs, with both running backs healthy once again, and Dedrick Mills and Kadeem Carey. Just not the upside to be had there. One of their fullbacks, William Langlis, did not practice yesterday due to an illness, so that was on Wednesday. And then for the wide receivers, it's pretty much just Reggie Begelton and Marco Michel once again as kind of GPP options. If you really want to play somebody else, you could probably do that. And then we had Cole Tucker practice in full on Tuesday and Wednesday due to his head injury. He could potentially be back this week. And then Tyson Mendelmoss did miss both days of practice so far this week due to a hamstring injury. Mainly has played on special teams this season, though. And then we get over to their defense going against the Tiger Cats, $3,700. Could be a paydown option there as kind of a GPP play if you really want to do it. Not anybody I'm going out of my way for, but, kind of mix and match here and there. And then we're going to keep moving down. So we have the Tiger Cats. Not really interested in Taylor Powell this week. He's $9,000. If you really want to throw him out as kind of a contrarian play in GPPs, you could do it. Stampeders defense has been decent at times this year, though. James Butler, $10,100. I like him very much as a GPP option. If I'm paying up at running back, probably looking at him. But there are some cheap options out there potentially at running back this week, so that could play a big factor in it. Tyreek McAllister behind him, $7,200. He's had upside games, but just doesn't have enough touches to really be worth it more times than not. Not really too interested in Tim White at $10,600. I'll be underweight to the field on him. If you really want to go after him, that makes some sense, but I'm not going to be there personally myself. Duke Williams still on IR. Terry Godwin, $6,300. Viable GPP option there. Omar Bayless has been back, but not too crazy about him at $5,300. We did see Keandre Smith have that big game last week, which kind of came out of nowhere, but $3,600, if you really want to roll him out as a GPP option, you could definitely do it. He's probably going to draw a decent amount of ownership this week just since he had that big week last week, but, I'll play a little bit of him. Probably going to get to more Terry Godwin than anything from this team in terms of their wide receivers. We did have Richie Sanadini. He was transferred to the suspended list, so we'll see what's up with that. Does look like Chris Owisi-Kusu is back on the active roster. He's not on DraftKings, though. And Tyler Ternaski did return from injury last week at $2,500. Nothing too inspiring here from the wide receivers, mainly just getting Terry Godwin, maybe a little bit of Keandre Smith here and there. And then for the Tiger Cats defense at $4,100, I'll take some shots on them as a GPP option. Versus Calgary Stampeders, who have not been the greatest offense for the most part this year. But that's kind of where I'm at just in terms of everything. Nothing too crazy this week. Mainly in terms of quarterbacks, I'll be most interested in like Zach Collaros, probably Chad Kelly this week. A little bit of Vernon Adams here and there in terms of running backs. Either pay down options, James Butler. William Stanback's not too bad at $7,400 either. Wide receivers, just kind of mix and match on a lot of different ones there. There's a lot of good pay down options this week, so I'm going to try to take advantage of that as much as I can, especially in terms of stacks if you can do that. And then, defenses, I don't think there's one that stands out a lot, but kind of the ones that I highlighted as GPP options, probably going to be the ones that I do get to this week. Probably not getting to Winnipeg, probably not getting to Toronto this week overall, just in that potential shootout game. But with that being said, that's kind of what I do have for CFL DFS for week number 17. Trying to keep this short and simple as possible. If you guys do have any specific questions related to CFL DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, if you're interested in the updated version of this sheet after we get the last day of injuries, any other additional notes, anything else like that, be sure to check out the Patreon, patreon.com/CoachCraigSports. You'll get access to that. You'll get access to fantasy football content. You get access to NFL DFS content, MLB DFS content, NBA DFS content when that comes around and all that good stuff. So definitely be sure to check it out. Definitely worth it for a very small monthly donation over there. But with that being said, if you are checking out my channel for the very first time or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. It helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have MLB DFS Monday through Friday. Tomorrow will be the last day for the regular season, so that will be the last day of MLB DFS for this year, at least, I should say. Then there's the CFL DFS video up once a week, which obviously is this video, and then I do a NFL DFS video for both DraftKings and FanDuel, so check that out. Probably be out on Saturday morning. And then also tomorrow, if you want to check out on the Sports Affiliation channel, Coach Goes Back to College, where I highlight my prospect of the week, my game of the week, and my prop of the week for college football. If that's something you're interested in, I'll definitely be sure to check that out over there as well. But with that being said, that's all that I have at this point in time. Definitely do appreciate each of you tuning in to this video. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day, no matter what day you're watching this on, a great rest of your weekend, and some pretty good luck in CFL DFS for week number 17.